right, here we are. Welcome into the Hill Pursuit podcast. Probably just going to dive right into this one. Had some big expectations for a race weekend that is a couple days away at this point. I'm recording on Thursday evening, likely releasing on Friday, May 29, with an anticipated Rabid Raccoon ultramarathon start of Saturday, May 30 at 4 a.m. But that will not be happening. So, cat's out of the bag in terms of that expectation, the excitement around that race, etc. But you can probably hear I'm not super thrilled. I've been preparing for this race for I don't know, since last year's 100K finished, I guess. I had it on my mind, I guess. I wasn't necessarily 100% all into the ultra marathon since then, of course, but I had committed to it on my calendar for a year at this point, and probably put at least 6 months of high volume running and prep into the ultra. And I hadn't even mentioned in any previous episode that I was actually planning to run 100 miles in 2 days, not the 100K. So, and there's a reason behind that as well, but I guess I'll discuss that. But long story short, I just left an ortho appointment, and at this point, there's really no definitive answer as to what is wrong, which is good, but I do have to get another, at least one other test, likely an ultrasound, to rule out a blood clot. What happened was no snapping, no popping or anything. It feels like tendinitis or excessive strain or overuse in my right calf, my soleus and calf. Thankfully, no Achilles, anything, but, and I have niggles, pains, small, issues and soreness literally every single day, like all the time. Like I have people tell me, "Oh, I feel sore. Like, should I do this session?" Yeah, I have pain and not pain. Sorry, that's the wrong word. I have muscle soreness and fatigue. Yeah, literally every single day. This is way different. I've never felt this before. I can actually pinpoint almost the moment that it happened. But like I said, it wasn't a pop or anything. I just noticed that it felt like a little painful. So rewind a little bit, I guess. Pittsburgh Marathon was what, May 3rd, right? And May 2nd or 3rd. And I ran really well. I felt really strong. I negative split the back half. I didn't even recap the Pittsburgh Marathon yet. So here's a very brief recap. I started the race with my wife. She was running the half marathon. I ran a couple miles with her, which was awesome. That was so cool. We ran a half marathon together in 2013, and this was the next race that we did together, 2026. So that was really cool. I did run with her for a few miles, so my pace was slower than I was going to run the marathon, but after a couple miles, I just kind of took off, conservatively. So I think I ran the first half in I'm forgetting the numbers. I wasn't planning on a Pittsburgh recap, so forgive me. I ran the first half in roughly 2:0 something. What would it come out to? 2:08 or 9 maybe? I don't know. Something like that. And then I ran the second half under 2 hours. So I totaled 4:05 or 4:06, which I was completely thrilled with, just in general, just because I felt good crossing the finish line. 0 injuries, 0 discomfort, just fatigue, right? Because marathons are hard, but no real issues. However, I did wear like a performance insole in my shoe, my race shoe, which I had worn before. So I wasn't concerned. And I didn't feel a single thing. Nothing. When I was in the marathon. Nothing. No issues, nothing. Fast forward to recovering from the marathon. Felt fine almost like within 2 days. I wasn't necessarily hitting anything hard, right, within that week. But I think it came out to exactly 9 days later after the marathon. What was I doing? I had like my first outdoor bike ride of the season that I had planned to also be a run off the bike. And I had planned the run to be a specific pace because now that I'm done with marathon, I'm focused on triathlon and half iron and of course this ultra, but I'll get to that in a little bit. I basically had the capacity for the ultra by the time I hit the Pittsburgh Marathon. So at that point I was just kind of relying on, like, between the marathon and the ultra. So now these last 3.5 weeks, I basically was just going to train Ironman and then rely on my previous run block of training to get me through the ultra, which I felt was a very sound, intelligent plan. So I start modifying some pacing based on some goals that I had for 70.3 bike and run stuff. I get off the bike after a 2-hour ride and I start a 1-hour runoff at an intensity that was roughly like maybe a tempo or a little bit higher, not quite a threshold, but an hour, not an hour max effort, not a threshold effort, but a hard effort. So it was for 1 hour at a relatively hard effort, harder than marathon pace. So it's somewhere around 4 miles, maybe 4.5 miles. I just was like, oh, what is going on in my calf? Like, I literally remember thinking that. Like, no pop, no tear, nothing. I just felt discomfort in my calf. And I was like, I'm so close. And of course, I'm trying to execute the session. So I'm, picking up my pace a little bit. And it didn't get any worse, but I definitely felt it. And I was like, what the heck was that? Not something I'd felt before, but kind of went away. Not terrible. It wasn't something that I was immediately concerned with at all. And that was, again, 9 days post marathon. Basically my first like moderate to difficult run, which some people would argue, and here we are, I'm living proof, but some people would argue that that's still way too soon at post marathon to even do a moderate run, which I've heard those discussions various times since experiencing this pain. So just from trying to educate myself about what could be going on, I've heard various sides of the coin related to when you should get back to training, how much time you should have either completely off or completely off of running after a marathon effort, etc. So for me, it's kind of back to the drawing board in that sense, because what I did this time around clearly was not productive. But my background is I've never had an injury. I say never had an injury. The first thing that comes to mind is a concussion a couple of years ago, crashing my bike. But I've never had like a musculoskeletal injury from running there. Let's just say that. I've been very fortunate, very blessed to really never experience anything like that. Well, here we are, and since that hard runoff, moderate hard runoff, which was again 9 days post marathon, I ran an easy run once, and again felt it the whole time, but nothing got worse, and I was fine with the easy run. Ironically, I did a sprint workout once, and that didn't feel anything at all. It felt fine. And then the last run I did, so I've only done 4 runs in the last 18 days. Okay, I've only done 4 runs in the last 18 days, which you're training for an Ironman, or half Ironman, that's not a lot. But I had a 10-mile effort, and I quit the effort early because my calf was hurting so bad. So that's the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say, right? And I quit the workout at 8 miles. Like I still executed the workout fairly well, but then I'm at one. You're having a conversation with yourself, and you're a stubborn athlete who likes to hit and execute sessions. Like, when do I stop this? Like, this isn't feeling too great. When do I stop this? Well, for me, I answered the question at 8, and I just quit the workout. I haven't run since. And, that was probably, what's today, the 28th? That was probably, I don't know, 8 days ago. I don't know, somewhere around a little over a week ago. And, not having run since, I would expect that it's healing. If it's simple inflammation, it's healing. Even if it's something like tendinitis, over time, you're not running, it's going to heal and go away. Well, it got a little worse the last few days. So I was calling and texting my pacers and my crew for the upcoming ultra, letting them know that, the calf is not feeling very good. I don't know what to do, getting feedback, getting advice. I've trained for this for a long time. I'll get to that rationale, I guess, in a little bit. And then after those conversations, I woke up this morning. It's Thursday. This ultra marathon starts on Saturday morning. I woke up this morning and it felt like I had a new leg. It felt great. It didn't feel anything. Walking around the house fine. Up and down the stairs, no issue. Not noticing any pain or discomfort. So I get excited. I call my pacers, talk to my crew. I'm like, hey, if I don't get worse, I am 100% showing up to this starting line. Like, there's no way I'm missing this. If I felt like this right now, not having an injury prior, I wouldn't even think twice. I'd just go to the starting line, right? Like, you have these little aches, pains, discomforts, whatever. That's what it felt like this morning, which was like a whole new world. Brand new leg, compared to the last 17, 18 days. So I'm optimistic. And then I come home and, I'm 30, 36 years old, 37 years old. I'm not 50. I'm not 60. I'm taking my daughter to preschool, and I tweaked my calf just walking to her preschool from my house. And immediately I knew that it was over. Like, there's just no chance. I've been so back and forth, like, emotionally, physically, this last week. Like, what am I going to do? I trained so hard. I trained so long. I have to show up, right? And, at the same time, it's like, don't be an idiot. Don't hurt yourself. But it's like, wait a minute. I have the capacity right now, right in my head. If I'm fresh, I feel like I can complete this 100-mile race. How am I not? I've put so much time into this. How am I not going to give this a shot? So it's been a battle, it's been a battle. But this morning when I tweaked my calf doing literally nothing, I knew instantly. I was like, there's no way I'm doing this. There's just no way. Maybe something more serious is going on. So went to the ortho. So far, only got an x-ray, which I knew the x-ray would be fine. This does not feel skeletal, like nothing wrong with my lower leg at all. And I knew that, but he wanted to rule it out, so I was like, okay, whatever. Next is going to be an ultrasound to make sure I don't have a blood clot. You'd think if I did, there'd be some other serious issues that have presented themselves, and they haven't. So just to rule it out, I'm still going to go through with the ultrasound, but I guess if it doesn't get better, there's an MRI that could happen after that, just to look at the muscle tissue, any connective tissue, ligament damage, whatever. But, I'm not thrilled because I don't have an exact answer, which is fine, because if it's just severe inflammation and severe overuse muscle strain injury, it's going to go away. It's just going to take a while to go away. But I will also say I've never felt this before. And again, I'm very fortunate. So I'm crossing my T's, dotting my I's, making sure that everything's okay with my leg. And I'm happy I'm doing that. But it absolutely sucks that I am not able to attempt this 100-mile race because I trained really freaking hard for this. You know, a lot of people like don't understand what it takes to train for literally anything when you have kids. Like parents, you know, let me hear you in the back, right? Like when you're a parent and you have a passion to challenge yourself and become a better version of yourself, and it might be through, you know, 5Ks, it might be through full Ironman distances, it might be through running a marathon, half marathon, whatever it is. You're a parent. You got to sacrifice something in order to like even like be half decent at whatever you're pursuing, right? Like I joke with people all the time, like the amount of training it takes to be like completely middle of the pack in endurance sport is wild. It's wild. Like I train really hard. And you know, my goal at these big races, it's never like a performance against myself. Sometimes, I shouldn't say never, it's rarely a performance against myself. I usually, if you've listened to my podcasts, you know that I'm one who I gauge my performance off of like percentile finishes, because even if you show up to the same course year after year after year, you have conditions, you have people, you have you know, the night's sleep that you got prior, you have, you know, among other things related to your training too. But every single day is different. Every race is different. The buoys might be placed in a different location if it's the same triathlon that you always do, whatever. So I look at percentile finishes, right? So I'm not, you know, like I said, I'm not an elite athlete. I train really freaking hard, and my goal at these things is to be like top 35 to 40 percentile, you know, like, and if I'm in that range, like that's my goal right now based on my fitness and how much I train. And every now and then I'll crack into the 20s, which I get thrilled about, which is super ironic. I'm saying that because my best ever, this is just a little tangent here, my best ever half Ironman finish is not my best ever half Ironman overall time. Based on the difficulty of the day, I finished significantly better relative to the field in a half Ironman that I was like roughly 12 minutes slower than my overall half Ironman PR. So for anyone out there who's like needing to get faster all the time, or, you know, you're getting older, you have kids. I'm definitely not old. That's not how I look at myself at all. But you're getting older, you know, we're all aging. We're not getting younger. You have kids and you're like, hey, why can't I run as fast as I did when I was 25 or whatever? First thing I say is just get the heck over that, because you're not gonna. You know, 9 out of 10 people are just not going to. Maybe if you're still in your mid-late 30s, this is a different podcast, but I'm getting way too off right now. I'm not saying you can't get faster over time. You absolutely can. I'm just more of a fan, personally, I would also say professionally, of percentile finishes relative to the field, because every single day is different. Temperature, humidity, temperature of the water, who shows up to the race, where the buoys are placed, etc. All these different things. Flat tires, right? All this stuff. So I look at percentile finish, and that's what I'll always do. I do like the time on the card, on the finishing certificate. That's great to see. Hey, I just PR'd my marathon, right? Which is always a great goal to have. But look at your performance relative to the field, and I think you'd be really pleased if you start gauging your performances that way. And anyway, that's how I rank my performances, right? So all that to say is I worked really hard for this race, and I still am somebody who shoots for like top 40 percentile, right? That's just who I am. You know, for now, and that's fine. Worked really hard, and, you know, the sacrifice you make as a parent to still work really hard and not just exercise, right? Exercise is great, but that's really general, right? I have more performance goals. So I would say that I don't exercise, I train. And if you have a performance goal, You train too. And to train for something as a parent, you're making big sacrifices. And it's like, you're either going to sacrifice time with your family or you're going to sacrifice your own time. And for me, it's an easy decision. That's just kind of how I am. I don't sacrifice time with my family. So I wake up early and I have my time in the morning, and occasionally my wife and I will, we'll split our long run. So I'll do my thing with the kids while she's out, and then we'll flip it, or vice versa. And, we both get our sessions in on a weekend day on occasion, right? And that's actually a lot of fun in doing that. And the kids like it too, because, mommy's out on a run, let's look for her, and let's say, go mommy, and then they're doing the same thing for me. And it's not the whole family all together on the run, but everyone enjoys it. So that's actually a lot of fun. That's been a unique part of this season because my wife's been training a lot more too. So anyways, you think about not showing up to the race that you took so much time out of every single day for the last 6 months, waking up at 4 o'clock, call me crazy, but I went and I started a run. I started a 40-mile run at like 1 a.m., which required a 1 hour drive to get there, and that's just like it wasn't a regular day. I had off. We had childcare and moved things around to make the availability work to do that. But I didn't wake up at 9 a.m. and then go for this run. I was done by 9 a.m. So I look at all this stuff these small changes I made and accommodations to like get in certain runs and get in sessions and lose sleep. And, again, as a parent, I have 4 kids. It's like my nutrition's never perfect. It's decent. There's different stress in my life that, compared to the young 20-something who has no children, right? But so there's all these different things, right? And it's just like knowing I'm not going to get to the start line when I made all this effort and sacrificed, in my eyes, what I feel to be a lot. It's pretty devastating. I don't even have a better word. It's pretty devastating. And if you know me, if you're an athlete or if you're a friend or, a colleague, whoever, I say this all the time. Like, if you're an athlete of mine, definitely listen up. Or if you're an athlete in general, getting to the start line healthy is like more than half the battle. If you're someone who's like, oh, I need to execute this session, I'm not going to feel confident at the start line if I don't run 24 miles in prep for my marathon. It's just a silly example, right? But if I don't execute this certain type of session before my race, I'm not going to feel confident. Listen, this is an easy debate. You want to get to the start line healthy. If that means you're undertrained, you're still at the start line healthy. If it means so much to you that you need to execute a certain type of session that you can't even get to the start line because then you're not healthy or you're injured, or, here's the example of me right now, perhaps an overuse injury because you did too much. If you can't get to the start line, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. So be okay with being slightly undertrained at the cost of, maintaining your health, maintaining your ability just to get to the start line. Just get to the start line, right? Like, the race itself is fun, but I'm willing to bet 99% of people enjoy the training, which is every single day, and you're planning your day around it on sometimes, and you're planning your food around it, and you're planning your family time around it. That's where you're putting in the time and the effort. If you can get to the race, go have fun and enjoy yourself. Your fitness will be on full display. It's going to be what it's going to be. But if you can't get to the race because you're so stubborn that you have to go hard in a session where your coach wants you to go zone 2, and you hurt yourself or you strain your calf, or You're so stubborn that coach has you running 14 miles during a taper, but you feel good, right? Quote unquote, feel good. So instead of the 14 miles during the taper, you go run 23. And in that last hour, your hip starts bothering you and you can't make it to the start line. Or you make it to the start line, but you end up walking half this marathon. Well, was it worth it? I can tell you right now it's not. I wouldn't even, if I could go back and just not even run off the bike for that workout, or, go back and run for 30 minutes at a nice easy pace, you darn straight I would. Because fast forward to today, I'm sitting here with at least a heavy strain, possibly something else, but at least a heavy strain that's keeping me from even walking my kid to preschool. So, I would say it's very important that you are, I don't have a better term. It's better to be undertrained and get to the start line than overtrained and miss the race, right? You have to agree with that. So please just, from my experience right this second, in this moment, this last, 3 weeks for me, I'm telling you, don't overdo it. I have a different perspective now. Sometimes these are lessons you got to learn, right? I don't have a broken leg, right? I'll recover. I'll be fine. But these are still lessons you have to learn. Like, don't do too much too soon. We're not, unless you're listening to this and you're a professional. Okay, one, thank you for listening. But you're probably not a professional, right? So don't pretend like you are one. Take time off, right? I took time off and it still wasn't enough. I took over a week before I executed a moderate run again. It still wasn't enough. So you got to go back to the drawing board. I'm going back to the drawing board in terms of how I plan recovery from races for myself, for my athletes, from person to person, casual conversation. Listen, we all need to learn from these experiences. We need to get better as athletes, better as coaches, educate ourselves. Right? We fall into this bubble, like, with this routine, like, oh, we know what's best for our body, and then one day it's just not. Right? And it could be because we're getting older. It could be because you didn't get enough sleep. Maybe not just last night, but maybe for like the last month, right? Any parents with young kids want to attest to that? And you just don't have it that day. So forcing yourself to hit performance metrics too soon after a big event is dangerous. It's dangerous. You got to take your time off. You got to take your time off. And I'm not one who's ever been a big fan of complete rest, but after a race effort, man, you got to take time off. You have to plan for rest days. You have to plan for no structured workouts. You have to plan for minimal running. Even in that second week, you have to let your body recover, like a full race effort. Call it a 10K, call it a half marathon, call it a marathon, an Ironman, certainly an ultra, right? But you have to give yourself time to recover. You can't be so stubborn and think that you're like Superman or Superwoman and you're just going to fall right back into training, normal training, 1 week after an all-out marathon effort. Now, I'm literally saying that, and people I know personally are coming to mind who can do this, right? And so there are exceptions to this. I'm not saying it's like this for everybody, but there are exceptions to this. There are definitely people, even in my circle. I know some of those people listen to this podcast. I know some freaks. I know some world champion qualifying athletes. I know some high-level performing athletes in my circle, my friend group, coaches, athletes. I know them. I know some freaks. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I'm saying 99 out of 100 of you who listen to this. Are there even 100 people who listen to this? If there are, let's say there are. 99 out of 100 of those people, real or fake people, are not professionals. You can't act like you are a professional. You just can't do it. All right? So that's my little soapbox related to recovery and training. As it relates directly to me and this ultra, yes, I am very sad that I'm not racing. um, I can tell you right this second, I will be doing this race next year, 100 miles. There's something about the 100-mile distance that I'm drawn to. The reason I decided to change this is what I did. I actually changed my registration from 100K to 100 miles because in my head, I'm thinking about this and I'm like, I'm training for an ultra marathon, roughly 65 miles distance. I accomplished this last year. I know I can do it. I'm not someone, like I already mentioned, I don't need to get hit a performance hours or something for this 100K. That's not my point to doing the 100K, or the 100 mile. I'm doing it because I absolutely had the time of my life out in the woods figuring out how to solve these problems. So if you don't know this about me, I'm somewhat of a creative thinker and I love problem solving, which is why I think I'm so drawn to endurance sports, to be honest, because there's a lot more to it than, putting on a pair of sneakers and just going for a run. There's a lot that can go wrong. You have to plan for a lot. And I just love all of that. I love the intricacy of programming, which is probably why I got into the field of exercise physiology and strength and conditioning in the first place. I love the planning that goes into executing something. And the experience I had with the 100K last year was just kind of like the penultimate version of the problem solving that I'm drawn to be honest. So in my head, I'm like, well, I accomplished this already. I'm already training for an ultra. And if you know me and have had this conversation, I don't want to do this again in the immediate future. So I'd already made plans with my wife. We're both going to run the half marathon at Pittsburgh next year because I want to focus on speed. So now you've heard some conflicting things from me already. Like, I'm transitioning to a speed focus for next year because I want to get faster before I circle back to marathon and try to get a little bit better at the marathon. I want to get faster first in some smaller distances. So I plan to do that in the next season. But I can also tell you right now, having missed out on the opportunity for 100 miles this year, I'm not going to let it go too far off of my radar. So I'll make it work. I will figure it out for next season to plan it in because it's on my mind now. And again, it's like the ultimate Rubik's Cube to me. And believe me, I know there's levels to this stuff. I've coached athletes to Cocodona 250, Arizona 300, a bunch of other 100 miles, 100-miler efforts, 50-mile efforts, other ultra efforts. I know there's levels to this. To me, right now, where I'm at, this 100-mile distance feels like a problem I wanna work on for a little bit, like the Rubik's Cube I just mentioned. And it's not just the distance. For some reason, I'm also very drawn to this race. I don't think I would enjoy 100 miles on a rails to trail flat course. I really don't. I would feel accomplished if I finished a 100-mile effort wherever it was. Don't get me wrong. But I am drawn to this, the challenge of 2,000 to 2,200 feet of elevation for every half marathon loop. 8 total loops. So roughly, what is that, 16 to 18, upwards of 20, 16 to 18,000 feet of elevation for 100 miles. I don't know why, but I'm drawn to that. I love the woods. I've come to love trail running. I don't do it nearly enough. I really don't. But when I do, I absolutely love it. So I'm very drawn to this race, and I'm very drawn to the 100-mile Rubik's Cube. So I will be back. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it next year. I'm also completely okay if I DNF this race. I've completed 100K. I want to see if a 100-mile attempt will break me. I didn't even get to the start line, and I'm already broken. So I guess there's your answer for right now. But I will be back. I will get to the start line of this 100-mile race at Rabid Raccoon, and I'm going to give it my best shot. DNF, no DNF, whatever it is, finish time. I want to see if I have what it takes, and then reassess my life at that point. But I can tell you with certainty, I will be attempting and prepping, despite all the negatives that I just mentioned related to sacrifice for an ultra endurance event. I will be doing this again because I'm not letting it get too far off my radar, and I want to accomplish it. So I'm going to get after it for next season, see what I have, see if I can do it. Yeah, so a little bit of a, sad story, right? Woe was me. Get over it. Life happens, kind of a deal. But at the same time, like, I'm encouraged, because this season, despite having that big goal, this season is really important for me to execute 70.3 distances as well. Most important, I would say, of those two races, because I have two of them, is Ohio 70.3, which is roughly 7 weeks away. And that's I say most important because my family is, like, first of all, we have a lake house in Sandusky, so it feels like literally a backyard race, which is awesome. But 3 members of my family are going to do a relay at Ohio 70.3 while I do the full race. So I'm really excited for that. It seems like there's a little bit of a race bug, not a triathlon bug necessarily because it is a relay, but a little bit of a race bug that's caught by some members of my family, and I'm really excited to see how they do. I'm coaching all of them up. It's my brother-in-law executing the swim, sister-in-law on the bike. I just rode 40 miles with her this weekend. She did a fantastic job. Farthest ride she's ever executed, and she still has 7 weeks to go, so she'll be ready. And then my wife is doing the half marathon, which she already completed one at Pittsburgh, so she is also ready and fully capable. So very exciting. That one's more important. But what's also kind of cool is I'm racing Eagleman for the 4th time this year. So silver lining to not running for the last week or so and then not being able to attempt the 100 miles. The silver lining is that I'll be more rested and fresh for Eagleman because Eagleman's only 2 weeks away. So if you're racing Eagleman, or I guess Happy Valley, that's the same time frame, same exact weekend. No better time than now to get in open water, right? Because we have 2 weeks. So, and like I said, there's no issue for me on the bike. There's no issue for me in the water. So what I plan to do, and this might change, but what I plan to do is execute bike and swim sessions, potentially some double bike sessions over these next 2 weeks. And honestly, I might not run once. I might not run at all because I want to be able to develop a run progression so that I can execute Ohio 70.3 efficiently. I might just go off of feel and fitness at Eagleman, which again is only 2 weeks away, and I'm still riding a pretty good high from this marathon and ultra marathon block of training. So I'm going to carry my run fitness into that and just try to rest my calf as best as I can. 2 more weeks of recovery. That'd be a total of like 3.5 weeks of no running, which you might think doesn't sound great on the surface, but again, if you're injured, you got to do what you got to do, and I think that's something that I have to do. So that's my plan. Take some time off from running. Try to nail the bike a little bit. Indoor rides, a couple outdoor rides. Hit the open water a handful of times these next 2 weeks. Get comfortable and just have some fun at Eagleman and see what happens. So that's where I'm at. I didn't really give you a Pittsburgh marathon recap, so today you got a brief one. It went well. I was thrilled to run a few miles with my wife, and then I negative split the race, which was probably the first time I ever negative split Pittsburgh. So that was exciting. But yeah, I'm not going to be attempting the full next year. I'm excited to hit the half distance. And then again, like I said, even though it conflicts with some training goals, it's still on my mind. So I'm going to attempt it and just try to have a more intelligent plan and rest recovery from big race efforts. And, I think it's going to happen. I do. If I was fresh, I kept telling my wife that I felt like if my calf was good and I was fresh, I think I could do it right now. So we're just going to delay it a year. It's only another year to get more fit, another year to learn, another year to progress and grow as a coach and an athlete, and we'll make it happen. So that's the update. I appreciate you listening. This is the Hill Pursuit Podcast. You guys know me. Call me, text me if you want to talk about any of this. I'm more than happy to. I welcome the conversation, as always. If you want to just reach out, maybe you don't know me personally, reach out to me through email, hillpursuit@gmail.com. Check out the website, hillpursuit.com, for all training, coaching stuff, and all other podcasts as well, which are streaming anywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Podbean, Google, Apple, all of it. All right. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Have a very blessed day. I'll see you next time.